You have to be careful about making a weird show or watching a weird show.
Hello, this is Greg Smalley on Pod 366, a Weird Movies podcast, joined today, as I often am, by the unmentionable Giles Edwards.
Hello.
Also joined, as I often am, by L. Rob Hubbard.
Hello again.
And today with a special guest returning to the show for a second appearance, Jason Trost.
Hello, hello.
Thank you for being here, Jason, of the FP series and the new Waves of Madness, which is probably what we will talk mostly about, but we'll see where the discussion takes us.
Never can tell.
Yes. A few things up top. First note, I will be off next week. Pete Turbovich will be joining us instead, along with Giles. And my second note, I want to quickly mention this still. There is a new book out by somebody named the 366 Weird Movie Staff. It's a sequel to the first book, and that is the 366 Weird Movies Guide. Volume 2 is finally available from bearmanormedia.com, or you can buy it on Amazon or Barnes & Noble online, of course, only as far as I know. But anybody who's been waiting for Volume 2, it is out. I will drop links in the description for anybody interested in purchasing that. Giles and L. Rob Hubbard, both, their writing is both represented in both volumes, I believe. So there's that. This is a little bit of a soft launch, but I'll do some more promotion for that later. I just wanted to get that out of the way. You're hearing it here first. And the other thing is we do have one new release movie out this week. Just one. Nothing on physical media, but one thing in theaters. Giles, would you like to describe this still quickly for us?
Sure thing. This is a hospital room interior with delightful azure tile walls. I like the color anyway. On the far right, we see a gentleman who is quite obviously a member of the medical profession standing by the door. As we travel to the left, we see a fellow in a black collared shirt with long sleeves, blue jeans, and a, shall we say, a rustic style hat, maybe a rancher variety. He's standing in front of three tall joined lockers. And as we go all the way to the far left, we see lying in the hospital bed from just about the sternum up through the top of a rather tall head bandage is an injured individual who, from the outline of the blankets, one might observe that he is shorter than one might expect, although a proper height for the profession that I happen to know he's in.
He has a really big bandage on his head.
That is a really big bandage. Yeah, that looks like it's up to 8 inches tall.
He must have a giant forehead. This is a still for the movie in theaters called Kill the Jockey. It's an Argentinian movie from a director named Luis Ortega, who I am not familiar with his previous work. This one is about a jockey who's a rather dissolute fellow. According to the ad copy, he's addicted to horse drugs, and in the trailer you will see him drinking quite a bit, like almost every scene. He is also has some mob connections, gets in trouble with them, has a concussion. There may be an identity switch involved in it too, and it is described by some reviewers who've seen it as surreal, a bit wild, and it is getting pretty good reviews, 88% positive on Rotten Tomatoes last I looked. I just wanted to quickly, if you guys saw the trailer, let you have some quick comments before we get into talking about Waves of Madness and so forth. But Giles, did you see the trailer
I
and
did
have
see
any
the
comment?
trailer, and it looks like it's going to be fun. There was some jaunty soundtrack going on, and the kind of mafioso hints of mafioso violence that obviously might terrify anyone directly involved, but are amusing enough to watch befall similarly shady characters. So I thought it looks pretty promising.
All right, Robert.
I did see the trailer also. It looks intriguing. Kind of I can tell like the tone is sort of somewhat tweaked satirical. Um yeah. I'd be willing to check it. I'd be willing to check it out if it's anywhere near my area. So
Yeah, I should say it will be there isn't a VOD date, but it will be released on VOD pretty quickly and also on DVD. So if you can't find it in theaters, you can do that. Jason, did you see the trailer?
I didn't see the trailer, but that's because generally when I find a concept interesting, I try to not watch the trailer because I think they give away too
mm,
much.
Okay.
Like, yeah, it's just something I've started doing because I think trailers have just become a little bit oversharing. Like, I
Mm.
remember when Fury Road, when that was announced, I was like, I know I'm going to see it. I don't need to see the trailer. And I was so glad I didn't because when I went to the theater, I was like, holy shit. And that's ever since then, I've kind of just, I don't really watch, I will only watch a trailer if I need to be sold. If I'm not already going to see it, then I'm like, okay, I'll check out the trailer. But
Mm.
if I already know I'm going to see it like this, I was like, that's a great concept. I'll watch it whenever I have access. I'm in. Revenge Jockey movie, Argentina, done.
All right.
Sensible disposition. I myself only ever watch trailers because Greg often asks me, "Now, Giles, did you see the trailer for that?" And
Yeah. And
yeah.
as a filmmaker, having to make trailers, it can be quite annoying because you're like, God, I wish we didn't have to put that in the trailer, but I guess we do.
mhm.
Mhm.
And because, I feel like most movies work better if you just go in clean.
Mhm.
That's how they're written. Like when you're reading the script, you don't get a trailer for the script, like you go in and see what happens. So, but I understand why they're, necessary and all that for advertising, but, necessary evil.
Yeah. All right. Well, with that out of the way, we could spend the rest of the time talking about, well, whatever you want to talk about. But I figured this is
Ooh.
probably going to be the thing that Jason wants to talk about the most. And I'm since we got two co-hosts here who've both seen the movie, as have I, and are
Oh,
willing to ask
wow.
questions. I'm probably yeah, all three of us have seen it.
Oh, amazing. Well
Um,
done.
we're we do our research, so I'm going to let the other two ask most of the
Oh,
questions.
I'm just
My questions would probably be silly ones. So, but
I'm just surprised all three of you have seen it and you still want me on the show. This is great.
I'm quite fond of it, to be honest, and
Oh,
it's
amazing.
very short too, so you can easily fit it in. Um,
Yep.
but let me just let you. It's a pretty high concept, actually. So can you just describe it? Introduce viewers who aren't familiar with this concept as to what's going on here, if you would.
Well, it's basically a 1930s monster movie, like a Universal sort of movie, but about, Lovecraftian cosmic horror, but represented like a side-scrolling horror video game from the PS1 era of video games. So yeah, it's very high concept, it's very strange. I understand if you don't like it. With this movie, my main approach when talking to people about it is like, I can't guarantee you're going to like it, but I can guarantee you've never seen it before.
That's true.
And
Mhm.
that's in this day and age, that's kind of all I go for because when you have no money and you're an independent filmmaker, and I say independent filmmaker in the way where like it's not like A24 where you have like $50 million and it's still an independent movie. I mean like DIY, like making it for 20 grand in your apartment kind of thing. If you want to stand out from the heap of what exists out there, I think you just have to make something new that you can't compare it to because otherwise you're just a cheap lo-fi like cover band of things that have way more money and you're just doomed to failure. And I've tried it before.
Mhm.
It's very hard. And I'm just kind of over it. And if I'm going to spend a year or two of my life on something, I want it to be something that I love that I haven't seen before. And that's how I came across this idea.
This is just a bigger version of the
Oh, well,
um,
geez.
Yeah, we get to see that square jaw up close here.
Oh, geez.
I did not have Giles describe it. Giles, do you want to
Oh,
describe this for anybody who is unable to see it?
sure. We've got a black and white poster here, as is befitting the era, and I guess the fact that the movie itself is black and white, and we've got we got a star-laden sky with some wisps of clouds, or perhaps cosmos lurking in the background there, and it's one of those character splatter kind of motifs, and looming over everyone with gun ready to go, but with trigger safety being followed, which I certainly appreciate here. This hero with an eye patch is looking kind of skeptically off to the middle distance with his firearm ready, but finger not on trigger because accidents can happen. And going slightly lower, I guess the second largest figure is a sort of femme fatale-ish looking woman, I'll say, in a period dress, scandalously bare-shouldered, but with a wholesome long hairdo with bangs. And she is holding, perhaps less safely than our hero, a large knife. And then if we move our gaze to the right, we see a concerned-looking, fairly bald man, but with a nice, full academic-style beard. And his concerns, are presently unfathomable. From this poster, it looks like he could potentially be a villain, but those who know that isn't true. And slightly cut off from this close-up, we can see the menacing top of a sort of black human head-shaped thing with glowing eyes, and as one might hope from a monster feature, especially the Lovecraftian one, looming tentacles are generously spread about the rest of the image.
Good job. If we look at the poster, you can see more.
Oh, yeah. We see some hooded cultists. We see a large ocean liner style thing. We see some choppy seas. And of course, we see some more tentacles, which is a promise that I feel is delivered on in the film in question.
Yeah,
Gotta have tentacles.
it's amazing. You won't know the sort of like back and forth email fights I had to go through to keep the poster black and white with the distributor. They wanted to have a color poster because they're like, traditionally in territories, it sells more if it's color. And I'm like, yeah, but you know how pissed off people are going to be when they see a color poster and they have to watch an entirely black and white movie? Like, that's not going to work. It might lead to a couple more sales, but people are going to hate this movie. So, yeah, that was a very big conversation for about a month.
Huh.
Interesting.
I thought it was a no-brainer, but
Well,
yeah.
on that note, did any of them try to convince you to do a color version of the feature just to sell to some territories?
That was mentioned early on in the pre-production process, and I was like, absolutely not. Because all the effects I'm doing and everything, it would be so hard to turn it color because everything's shot and made to be black and white. So yeah, you could do that, but it would take me about as long as it took to do this to redo everything in color. And I was like, there's no way. And this movie, it would look so much hokier in color. And like, not that it doesn't look hokey, but that's like the vibe. It's supposed to look like a 1930s B movie. So it's like, if you take that away from it, I think it loses like 90% of its charm. And I just kind of wouldn't want to make that movie. And what I know with the distributors, when you give them an inch like that, and they're like, just do it just in case, they're going to mostly use that. If it exists, they're going to use it. So if you don't want to exist, put your foot down and be like, that's just not possible.
Yeah.
Otherwise, and that's what I liked about making a side-scrolling movie with only one camera angle. They couldn't really come in with editing notes because it's kind of impossible. You can't really cut things out because it's a one shot that keeps flowing. So it's just kind of like, that's what it is, guys. We can like go back and forth on sound effects and things, but that's about all you can do, which was great. I love that.
All right. That distributor is Umbrella, correct?
Correct.
They're interesting. I didn't know if we were going to get in. They're an interesting outfit in that they're kind of like mostly doing physical media, as far as I can tell. But they're doing for Australia, kind of taking a role like an Arrow might, but specifically for the Australia market, where they're
Yeah. They're like an Arrow vinegar syndrome type thing, but down under here in
Yeah.
Australia. And their physical releases are incredible, which was definitely what attracted me for this because as, a DIY filmmaker, it's like the main thing for me is like everyone like, you can have people harping on like, I want my movie to be in cinema. I'm like, yeah, yeah, that's whatever. I want a great physical release because you make this thing, that piece of art you can have on your wall that's a tangible physical thing, especially today when movies can just like be disappeared online and
Mm.
streaming services and never. I want that awesome. If I'm gonna put 2 years into this, I want a really cool physical release, and they really kill it
Mhm.
with that.
Well, I'm actually glad you brought that up because I pre-ordered the collector's edition physical release,
Oh,
and
great.
it actually showed up from
That's amazing.
Australia 2 days ago.
Amazing.
It's in this box.
And I've heard the making of is even better than the movie, so enjoy if
I
you open
yeah,
it
I,
up.
Oh
I read
wow.
another review that
Mhm.
mentioned that,
He's
and
Oh my
unboxing.
God. Live unboxing.
so let's
Here we go.
take a peek here. Got through customs no problem.
Oh,
That's a
great.
small
Hey,
relief these days.
those are sold out, so you be careful with that
I,
thing.
I, I probably won't open the plastic. So this is nice biodegradable packaging they
Yeah.
provided.
Oh yeah.
Recyclable, I imagine, or I guess
Look,
wires here. Very snugly done up.
I have to mention your commentary is fantastic on everything with the poster and this. I could just listen to you do this all day.
Oh well, I'm open for any suggestions in the future. But here it is. Waves of Madness, a delightful box cover, and frankly, not to insult your face or the face of the two
Oh
other
yeah.
actors there. This would have been a swell poster too for people
Well,
who.
the original poster I made before Umbrella came in on board was that. So, FYI.
That makes sense. So this is rated M for mature themes and coarse language. I remember some coarse language as to the themes that up to the beholder, I suppose. And what do we got? Oh, this is number 163,
Oh, well done.
500. And golly, yeah, you're right. I don't want to open this. Actually, this is a nice, simple background. This is one of the least cluttered things I've seen. Normally, you have the 4 inches of tiny, tiny text,
Oof.
but none of that. And a pleasant spine with the umbrella title. Boom! This is going to look great on a shelf anywhere.
And anyone out there that is a Resident Evil fan, obviously there's lots of Resident Evil inspirations here. So when a company called Umbrella came and was excited, I was like, what more meta thing can you have than the Umbrella Corporation making this movie? Sure.
Well, that was unexpected, but cool. What is on the Blu-ray besides the movie?
Well, it's audio commentary with director, writer, and actor. And I believe you also do some soundtrack work
Yeah,
and
and I did all the
everything that
VFX and sound and yeah, et cetera, et cetera.
everyone but the other people who are moving, I think, is
Generally, yeah.
your candidate. Jason Trost and actor and producer Talay Wickham. And forgive me if I mispronounced that.
No, you actually did it perfectly. That's rare.
Excellent. Behind the scenes featurette. A promo for the ocean liner in question. That's probably a good bit of fun. And the trailer, which I did not watch.
Great.
All right. Robert, do you have a question to give?
I have got many questions. After
Go
seeing,
for it, Robert. This is my output. So.
well, this was my first really my first introduction to you. Although I've heard of the FP, and actually all superheroes must die. I've just never have gotten to the point of like, oh, I should watch that and haven't approached this point. And so coming across Waves of Madness, and I think when watching it, I guess as I was telling Giles, it's very much in terms of like a Lovecraftian take on Deep Rising. I guess is a simpler, but it's better. um, and
I
with
love some Deep Rising, so I'll take it.
okay, and with the side scrolling, I guess with the video game aesthetics, I guess what twigged for me is I guess with the hundreds of beavers guys, and like they're incorporating more the aesthetics of video game in the entertainment. And that took the longest for me to get used to, because I'm not a gamer at
Yeah.
all. But once you kind of got into it, it was like it kind of flowed smoothly. And I will say that story wise, and because with you have all the elements when Lovecraft, you've got the tentacles, you've got things, but story wise, I was actually taken by surprise, especially when, and I'm not going to spoil anything for anybody, but the in kind of like the final plot point, which was kind of like which I did not see coming, but it sort of made so, but knowing that, then it kind of made the inclusion of one of the other characters. It kind of made sense, because I was trying to figure out, okay, where does this character fit in? And so I guess for like a green screen for what you I guess you can call the genre green screen movies. I guess
Yeah,
this
sure.
was like, I will say, like one of the better movies I've seen this year. And I mean, like when you see like a lot of low budget, but then you have to kind of make excuses for it. Oh, it's either the look or the actors or whatever. This was kind of like a really good, ambitious B movie, well, slightly above B, and it's kind of like what you always kind of, when you do like these type of low budget, well, homemade features. It's like what you want to aspire to and to succeed. And then when Greg brought this up, then last week, then I decided, okay, well, I better just kind of see the FP. So I shotgunned. Well, first of all, surprising that there were four FP movies that Giles had told me, and so it's kind of like, what the? And
Yeah.
then I spent like a Sunday night shotgunning the entire FP series.
Oh gosh. Did you
And
adhere to
actually,
the 3 drink minimum, or did you go in raw?
went in raw, and then
Oof.
like but then sleep deprivation kind of kicked in
Okay.
to number three, so it was just as good. And then like the past couple days, I've been kind of looking at some of the other movies, like All Superheroes Must Die. The and I'm blanking on the title, because I literally just finished watching it like a couple of hours ago. The Isolation one, the kind of like horror.
How to Save Us, perhaps?
Yes, How to Save Us. And
Gotcha.
I have, like I told, I'm kind of embarrassed in how I slept on you for so long and not even notice it. So I'm kind of glad that I finally kind of discovered this, because in terms of like uh, you know, filmmakers working on low budget, you've and looking back through your career, you've seemed to have made it work, because you've been very very consistent, and the movies are good. You can say that
Oh,
some are better than others, but
yeah,
they're all very good. So
yeah. No, thank you. I appreciate that. That's really nice to hear. Like,
okay.
well, I
And
just,
I will say one thing I'm really impressed on how the FP you've sort of turned it into your own franchise, but a franchise that's actually good. So,
that's nice to hear. It depends on who you ask. A lot of people are like, you destroyed this.
well, so
Yeah.
it's sort of like, if this makes sense, uh, like the Phantasm movies, and I'm a huge Phantasm fan,
Mhm.
and yet I wish there if I wish that uh that there the Phantasm films all together would have turned out as and held together as good as FP does, because you do with the first one, and it took some getting used to, until I kind of realized what you were doing.
Yeah, that's fair.
And it's hard. Well, looking back, even at the time, it probably would have raised out eyebrows, and now, and watching it now, and then it's kind of like people will. So might not get the point. Might not get the
But
point.
no, there's a lot I find with that movie. It's very it you know I made it when I was 21, so it's you're in a different headspace. But my whole point with that was like I just I wanted to make fun of a bunch of white people, stupid white people from my hometown, and a lot of white people got really upset with that movie. I found they were just so mad. They're like, "This is so." And I'm like, "I know you're being made fun of," and they're like,
Oh,
"No," they
being,
can't,
oh,
they can't,
being
they don't know how to conceptualize that like they can be made fun of. And I was just like, yeah, you're the brunt of the joke. I'm sorry, but
It
making,
also helps that I do remember shows like the OC and stuff at that
correct. Yep.
time. So it's kind of like, and then to set it in like this this sort of like apocalyptic. Well, so on the first one, it's sort of more of an 80s movie.
Yeah.
80s movie, and then starting with two, you just sort of like, because I'm thinking like, okay, where can you go from there? And from two on, you sort of like doubled down on it. I think from the first frame with the Conan reference, it was
Oh
just
yeah.
sort of like, okay, so I'm completely in. And with every subsequent FP movie, you manage to just like double down, and story wise, it kind of gets somewhat ridiculous, but it works, and it's fun, and for the most, and it's fun,
Well,
and
I'm
not
glad to hear that. Like, my whole plan with that franchise was always like, well, each one obviously makes fun of like a different genre of movie or a different
mm,
sort of movies that I grew up on. But also, I wanted every single one to where I'm not going to try to make subsequent entries funnier. I'm just going to make the stakes twice as high and twice as ridiculous each time, and treat it just as seriously, and perhaps the humor will come from that. And that's always the
yes,
idea
it
with those.
does.
So if there ever is a five, it's got to be twice as crazy as four, which is probably matched it. So, we'll see.
I got a question for yeah, one of the reasons I think the FP holds together as a series better than say Phantasm is there's Jason Trost at the heart of each of those. Phantasm jumped around
Mm,
several different people. So with this through line, you've got the FP. You're obviously kicking off this new thing with the Waves of Madness, having the final like a little coda that at the end there indicating
Hmm.
what's going on after our fearless hero has reckoned with the
The
elders
madness.
see madness difficult, and indeed to give something of hint, perhaps a little of his own madness.
Mm.
Um, I like hearing from people like you because I also speak with a number of other, DIY filmmaker types.
Yeah.
Now, uh, let's do a sort of magic wand scenario. Now, let's give
Okay.
you an A24 budget,
Okay.
one movie. Do you think you know what you could do with that kind of money?
Yeah, I'd probably just keep doing what I'm doing with just way more money, right? Like I don't have
Pay yourself better?
yeah, yeah, I'd just pay myself. That'd be sweet. That'd be nice for once. But no, I wouldn't want to really do any IPs because I just feel like there's enough of that. Like we're
mm,
done with that. Like if I don't know, I'd love to see what I could do with $50 million. The answer is I have no idea because I'm so used to making movies for 20,000. Obviously, my core team's just going to get paid more, but I think I'm just going to like hire maybe two or three more people and then just like go absolutely insane with something. Like I'd love to see if I could make a $50 million sequel to this, that would be insane. But in my experience, more money means more problems. So
mm,
I would never be able to make something as authentic and different with more money. If it was a scenario where like here's $50 million and you don't have to answer for anything you do and you
Hmm.
can do whatever you want, that's a different question than here's $50 million at A24. Then my movie's probably going to look just like all the rest of their movies because they have a template and a format. You can only hire these actors, et cetera, et cetera. And that's why all movies look the same because when you go in, they give you the list like, here's the five actors or actresses you can use because they're hot right now that'll fund the movie. You have to have this DP who shoots all our other movies. You have to have this editor who does all our other movies. And that's why everything's so formulaic because they just have a system and there's just the formula and they keep cranking them out. And I get it. That's the ecosystem of it. But I don't know. I'm not, yeah. So if I won the lottery and got 50 million and could do it myself, that's a different question
Yeah.
than going to
I
A24.
guess that segues nicely into my next because I know you did some fundraising for the
Yeah.
Waves of Madness, and I believe you may have even begun doing fundraising for the sequel. That you made various offers for different donation tiers.
As
And
we
I'm
do.
just curious how you were able to, because you're basically on a very small scale catering to someone else. If in these donations, you
Yeah.
one of them, like you could have your face somewhere on the ship. Another, you'd have
Yeah.
like a
And
little.
that promo you mentioned on the back of the box, that's the people from that campaign
Oh,
who
that's
donated.
the ad
And
there.
it's in the movie in the background on some of the screens at the beginning, but then I made sure that they put that on the DVD so it was featured.
And so how did you I guess you how did you limit what you were offering so that you could get funding from people for their interest in being involved while still keeping Waves of Madness very much your own project?
Well, I guess I have a lot of experience with it at this point. I've been like funding things myself for about 10 or 15 years now. So it's, I kind of know what to do and what not to do. When you fund those things, it's really hard when I found out early on when you try to do physical things, because that eats into so much of your profit because you have to produce those physical things, ship those physical things.
Mhm.
And I've seen a lot of people who start their first Indiegogo or Kickstarter, and it's just full to the brim of like things they're going to have to make and produce and ship out. And naturally, they're never going to be able to do that because they're going to make the movie and then realize they spent all the money. And I'm like, it's a disaster. Don't do it. So it's like if you can find a way around that, like I can physically put you in the movie. You want to be a producer? Sure, that sounds great. You want like things like that that you can give to people in a way, or it's like, oh, you want me to name a character after you? Why not? That doesn't do anything to me. Doesn't affect me. You want to throw a line in there? Cool. But I now know the sort of things that work like that. So every time I make a project before I do it, there is a part that I know when pre-planning and building that I'm going to have for those sort of things. So it doesn't affect the movie. I build it in from the ground up. So it's not like, oh God, I got to insert this in now. That's going to be a disaster. Like I'm thinking about how I'm going to fund the movie when I'm writing it, essentially.
Gotcha. Okay. Good point.
Well,
So
I'm sorry if I could interrupt. Can you speak to like in terms of your current working method now? I guess I'm assuming that when you moved to Australia and then with COVID a few years ago, having to adapt to adapt more that well sort of like you're working in your apartment and with in green screen and green screen everything. Can you kind of tell like how big is the crew that you're working with when you're
Oh
doing
gosh.
things?
It's about like three people if I'm lucky, including
Hmm.
myself. Like, which, you can get away with on green screen quite easy. Like the most recent thing I'm working on, which is this choose your own adventure horror movie thing called Afar, which is actually a sequel to How to Save Us. You might enjoy it, but
Okay.
um, that's all one person. That's just me. I've been going around doing that, so it's like it varies. Now it's like 1 to 3 people is my crew, but when with technology and things now, it's made that a lot easier to kind of pull off. Like back when we did the first FP, we had to have a lot more people, but now there's things that
Hmm.
can really help like in the post end and just like and cameras, everything's like automated. And now I can just have like a monitor on my cell phone and press record so I can just walk into the shot and manually operate the camera with my phone while I'm in it. So it's like it's crazy what you can do now.
I wanted to make sure we got this the answer to these questions in, which is there. I'm going to do a two-parter. Number one,
Sure.
there was a sequel sort of announced for the for this movie, and I wanted to know if that is the start of another franchise. And the second question is the FP now complete, or are we going to see some more FPs down the line?
Well, so it's a two-part question here. The sequel for this would be my new franchise. I would love it to be. I'd make a dozen of these if I could because they're so much fun, and I just love old monster movies. The idea with this is every time we would just go after another classic monster, my version of it. Like I love the Brendan Fraser mummy movies. My only problem was
Hmm.
always I wish they took the Brendan Fraser and Rachel Weisz and each time instead of going after a mummy, they just went after another Universal monster.
Yeah.
So that would kind of be my take on this is just each one's a different bad night adventure of going after a different monster and see what happens. So yeah, the sequel is in the works. I've written the script. I have to finish up this other project, which I'm going to be done with sometime next month, and then I'll get to start working, building all the sets for Castellum of Blood, which is the sequel to this, and hopefully get shooting that at the end of this year, beginning of next. And so that's definitely my next project. And as for an FP5 or whatever a continuation of an FP would be, I'm certainly open to it. I would need to know that there's interest, that people still want it out there. I would certainly do it. It's just those are a lot of work, and they're also the reach is pretty minute. Like there's like 100 to 200 people that are really crazy into
Hardcore.
those, which is great because it'll get them funded and everything. But like, there's no branching out. Like they're hard to get people in to watch them unless they're already a part of it. So, and I don't know. I think it needs some time to die down because I think four like got crazy. I think people are starting to come back around to four, but initially everyone's like, "What? This is too much." And I was like,
I
"Okay,
thought 4 was great.
yeah, well, we'll give it a couple of years, let them cool off, and they'll come back." And I've seen it already happening. We're like, "Oh, actually, it's pretty cool." So give that a couple of years. Then if people can persuade me to come back, I definitely have ideas for more. But
Mm.
at the main point, or like if this completely bombs and I need to like pay the rent, yeah, you'll see an FP5 a lot faster. But
All right, we got
hopefully
two and a
not.
half minutes. So who would like to ask a quick question?
Well, no, I like your idea on the fight going after various Universal monsters. I think a lot better than Stephen Summers did. Turned out. Um, go ahead,
Oh yeah,
Giles.
yeah. I guess yeah. I
Yeah.
guess in that with this Castle on the Blood you're working on, is it going to be more side scroller, or are you going to be exploring all the many different early video game styles?
I mean, there'll be a little bit more of stuff in there, but it's going to still all predominantly be side scrolling, but there'll be a little bit of evolution because side scrolling does different things and there's different action things from classic side scrolling games you'll see come into it. The next one's a lot more action packed, I would say.
Yeah, very cool.
Cutscenes, or I don't know. I don't know. Side scrolling was not my really thing. So isometric RPG would be
Oh
neat.
yeah. Oh yeah. I have thought about that. That comes a lot of times I think about those top-down RPGs from
Oh
like
yeah,
the
three
Super
quarter
Nintendo,
view.
yeah, like the Super Nintendo era. I'm like, God, that'd be really fun to make a fantasy movie like that. And I think about it, but we'll see. Maybe someday. Maybe FP5 will just be that.
Oh.
Really, really mess people up.
Cross the streams, mix the
Yeah.
genres up. Okay, well, we're pretty much down to like just a minute, so I don't think we probably have any more time. We do. Is there anything you want to pitch in the last minute there, Jason? Before.
Yeah, just please watch the movie, tell everyone about it. You can find it. You can rent it or purchase it digitally on Amazon or Apple or YouTube or Google or any of that. I have a link tree that goes to Waves of Madness that shows you everywhere you can get it. It's still available to buy on the Blu-ray, the standard edition, which has all the special features, just not the booklet inside. And that is on Amazon. You can get it. It's region free. Even if it says region B, it's region free with the Blu-ray, so you can watch it anywhere in the world. So yeah, just yeah, watch and support, and I'll keep making them if you keep wanting to watch them. Like I really appreciate you guys having me on here again. This is great.
It's our pleasure, James.
We really appreciate you coming on again. So you're now a two-timer. So you joined
Yeah,
the
that's
two.
great. Well, without people like all of you, like no one hears about my movies, so you guys are so important, and I appreciate it.
We appreciate you for coming on too. So thank you, everybody. Thanks, Giles, Robert, and Jason. I'll be gone next week. Pete will be here with Giles, and we'll see you then. Bye bye, everybody.
Weird. Yeah, I guess that is the word for it. Weird.